Hello and good day everyone. We are going to discuss a new topic. You're excited, right? But before that, let me introduce myself first. I am Jury May Samporna Manguntawar, and I will be the first reporter for our chosen topic, which is the factors affecting species diversity. To formally start our reporting, let me introduce the 8 numbers of Group 1. Yours truly will be the introduction, and for further discussions about the factors of species diversities, we have Ms. Marliza Marunong Salik, Mr. Yusuf Datumanong, Mr. Clint Ayan Lalim, Mr. Arif Ampaso, Ms. Glory Ann Victorama, and Mr. Muhammad Noor Jamil. And for the summary, we have Ms. Nyaranmi Bukar. So let's dig in. What is species diversity? So, species diversity is defined as the number of different species that can be found or that is present in an ecosystem. It is great when all the species are equally abundant in that area. And the diversity in species is very important in both biological, economic, social, and cultural responses. According to BioJuice Resources, to be able to have an healthy ecosystem, it needs to have a diverse and balanced number of the existing different species. Because the more producer species in that ecosystem, the more it will produce large biomass that will support a large variety of consumer species. Okay, so the next one is the species distribution. Species distribution, or matatawag natin ang species range, is an area where a particular species can be found during its lifetime. Or dito yung area na kung saan nagmamigrate yung mga species or kung saan they are hibernating. This pattern is, hindi daw ito siya, it's only seasonal. So it means it's not permanent. Nakadepende lang yung pattern na to doon sa availability ng mga resources na kinakailangan ng mga species na nakatira doon sa in that particular area. This distribution also depends upon the different biotic and abiotic factors. Since the species diversities may vary from different geographical locations, some species might have yung wide range area, while some species have a limited area. The most species-rich environment are tropical rainforests, coral reefs, and ocean bottom zone. So, where does some species being distributed? So, kung sa species distribution, species might migrate or hibernate. So, saan kaya sila, distributed? So, we have what we call mega diverse country. So, it is an area where majority of the Earth's species and large number of endemic species can be found. So, nandito yung mga extinct, malapit ang mga extinct na mga species. According to Aberdrolla, the concept of mega diverse country is first proposed by Mr. Russell Mittermeier. His purpose is for the awareness of the protection of the natural biodiversity, particularly doon sa mga countries na kung saan marami yung mga threatened species. Yung mga threatened or mga malalapit na mga extinct na mga species. Most of this country are found in a tropical or subtropical regions. A mega diverse country must have at least 5,000 species of endemic plants and must border marine ecosystem. So, according to my research, the World Conservation Monitoring Center, or the WCMC of the United Nations Environment Program, they identified like 17 mega-diverse countries like China, Brazil, and it includes a country, the Philippines. For further information, the first factors affecting the species diversities will be discussed by Ms. Marliza Marunong Salik. Thank you.
Thank you, Manguntawar. Assalamualaikum. My name is Marliza Papandayan Marunong Salik. So one of the factors that affects the species diversity is the effect of latitude. High species diversity in the tropics is actually influenced by various factors. And one of these factors is the increasing diversity with decreasing latitude. So we have a question here. Is species diversity really higher in the tropics than at higher latitude? So according to the European explorers who have visited most landscapes said that the diversity of species are much higher in tropics than in higher latitude. It is because tropical forest is less disturbed by human activities. Some scientists also conducted a study just to find an answer to this question. As you can see on this plot, the black circle signifies as New World plants, the white circle signifies as Old World plant, and the triangle shape signifies as a mountain. So, the flora and fauna diversity studies shows that the trend in increasing diversity with decreasing latitude, and this is adopted from Rosenweg on 1995. As for the effect of latitude to diversity, the factors such as soil and local climate is nagbibigay siya ng important role para ma-explain yung high scatter of diversity at a given latitude. So ano nga ba ang mga factors para malaman natin yung effects ng latitude sa species diversity? Or what is the factor that determines the latitude effect? So, yung number ng daylight for the entire year is kunti lang or varies very little from one equator to another. And dahil dito, yung annual amount ng solar energy na tumatama sa ating Earth is konti lang din. So when the temperature is above freezing or super labig na talaga, this only shows na very little rin yung light available for a plant to perform photosynthesis. We all know that a photosynthesis is a process in which a plant produces or manufactures food or sugar for its survival. So, the available light obtained during growth is a factor that creates a latitude effect according to Jordan and Morphy in 1978. So, for the next factor that affects the species diversity, which is the effect of elevation to the species diversity, is to be discussed by Mr. Dato Manong.
Okay, so good day again and assalamu alaikum to everyone and to our beloved advisor Sir Jason. By the way, my name is Yusuf Mangata Dato Manong, and today I was tasked to discuss to you about the effects of elevation on species diversity. First is the area hypothesis. It states here that the upper limit of elevational diversity gradient, or the EDG, is the area hypothesis, which states that larger areas are able to support more species. As elevation increases, total area decreases. Thus, there are more species present at middle elevations than high elevation. In my own perceptions, or sa pagkakantindi ko dito, yung effects ng elevation sa species diversity is that pag napakataas ang elevation or pag mataas yung elevation, mas maliit yung species na makikita or makakapag-thrive kasi in terms of area, paliit siya ng paliit. Just imagine, let's say, this picture, this mountain, or this mountain forest. Just imagine, let's say, a triangle siya. So, mapapansin nyo kapag yung triangle habang papataas ng papataas, lumiliit yung sakop ng area. So, meaning, sa higher portion ng triangle na yun is maliit lang yung sakop na area nila, and as a result, maliit din yung makakapag-thrive doon or yung makikita mo na species. So another thing to consider is the temperature hypothesis. It states here that it correlates increasing temperature with an increase in species diversity, mainly because of temperature's effect on productivity. Meaning, sa mga areas na may mas malaki or mas mainit na temperature, mas may makikita ka doon or mas may malaking or mas malawak or mas rich sila sa diversity of species. Another reason is bakit nga ba maliit yung mga species na nakikita sa higher elevation. It is also about the temperature, as I've said earlier. Di ba pag papataas ng papataas yung elevation, mas lumalamig yung temperature. Let's i-connect natin yung temperature hypothesis sa area hypothesis. I've mentioned earlier that, di ba, pag papataas ng papataas yung elevation, lumiliit din yung total area or yung sakop ng area. And at the same time, lumalamig yung temperature. So, as a result, maliit yung mga makikita mo or yung nabubuhay na diversity of species sa higher elevation. But, hindi lahat ng cloud forest are above 1,500 meter above sea level. In other areas, just like in Puerto Rico and Jamaica, according to Grab 1977, he said that there are cloud forests can be found in lower elevations in Puerto Rico and Jamaica. At dyan na rin pumapasok depende na din yan sa Massiner-Hibong effect or Massiner-Hibong effect is derived from German word which means mass elevation. Listening.
Good day everyone, I am Clitayan Kilunalalim, and for today I am tasked to report about the effect of soil fertility to the species diversity. For today's agenda, I'm going to discuss on what is soil fertility, why soil fertility is important, the impact of soil fertility to the species diversity, and the short-term result. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, soil fertility is the ability of the soil to sustain plant growth by providing essential plant nutrients. It also provides favorable chemical, physical, and biological characteristics as a habitat for plant growth. So the plant nutrients include the macronutrients nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, and magnesium. The micronutrients are essentially boron, chlorine, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum, and zinc. So why soil fertility is important? First is it can help reduce soil, water, and air pollution. Second is it increases vegetation cover. Third one is to regulate water resources availability. The fourth one is it allows for carbon neutral footprint. And the last one, it supports a diverse and active biotic community. We will now proceed to the impact of soil fertility to the species diversity. So the first thing is that soil fertility can vary at any given latitude and can affect species diversity. It is due to the changing latitude wherein in a specific location. Location of the area, whether it is near or far from the equator. For example, if the area is found along the equator, the climate is very hot and humid, but also it receives very heavy rainfall. So in here, equatorial regions have fertile soil. According to Stevens 2004, species adapted to infertile conditions were systematically reduced at high levels of nitrogen depositions. So only fewer species can be seen in this type of area. So according to Houston 1979, in some research, fertilizers were used to a small plot. The soil enrichment resulted to the loss of species diversity, resulting here because the species cannot adapt to the direct change of conditions. But these findings is only in short-term result. So to contradict those short-term results, according to Clark and Leisner 1989, the number of plant species on highly weathered soils of the lowland rainforest is lower than found on younger, richer soils. So meaning that a rich soil has a diverse species living. So to sum it all, if the soil is rich, then the diversity is also rich. It is because the soil can provide necessary nutrients to the trees and the microorganisms, which is the primary factor in the food web. That would be all. Thank you and God bless.
Hi everyone, I'm Arif Manguradang Paso. I am going to report and discuss the influence of stress on species biodiversity. First, let us define stress. Ano nga ba itong stress? Usually, ito yung nararamdaman ng karamihan sa atin. Stress sa trabaho, stress sa pag-aaral, Pero ngayon, yung stress na pag-uusapan natin is yung stress psychology. According to Grimm, in 1977, stress is a concept from physiology, but now it is widely used in ecology. In plant ecology, stress has been distinctly defined as the reduction in growth or biomass production causes by external constraint. Saan nga ba ito nanggagaling itong mga stressors or yung stress? Stressors can be natural environmental factors or they may result from human activities. First, we have biotic stressors or yung biotic factors. Second, yung abiotic factors. Third naman is yung human activities. Sa biotic factors, ito yung competition among species, predation, and diseases. While in abiotic stressors, ito yung salinity, radiation, floods, drought, extreme and temperature, heavy metals, and etc. So human activity naman, ito yung mga overexploitation due to overpopulation, rumarami yung disturbances and yung pressures sa ating ecosystem. In dry regions naman or yung mga dry forest, bakit nga ba lower lang yung density ng species biodiversity? It is because of the water availability. There's a lack of water in that certain area. So, yung mga species lang na nandun is yung mga nakakapag-survive at nag-a-adapt sa ganoong klima. Sa mga areas naman where there's an excessive rainfall, because the soils are frequently saturated, nagbibigay ito ng negative effects sa biomass production. In nutrient imbalance naman, sa mga area or ecosystem na mayroong poor nutrients in soil, nagdi-decrease din ito sa biomass production. Ganun din sa area na there's an excessive nutrients, ito yung nagiging toxic na hindi maganda sa isang ecosystem. So both nagbibigay sila ng negative effects or lower species diversity doon sa isang ecosystem. Punta naman tayo doon sa mga ecosystem with high salinity. Ito yung mga salt marsh. In the Philippines, one of the important and popular marshes is the Agusan Marsh located in Agusan del Sur. Because of its characteristics with high salinity and tides, there is also a lower species diversity in that certain ecosystem. Sa lower temperature naman and large daily fluctuation temperature, for example is yung mga mountain forest, there's also a low diversity of species because of the stressors that are present at high elevations. In conclusion, the stressors that are present in these ecosystems are really decreasing the species diversity in a certain area.
Good day everyone, I am Muhammad Nur CDML and today I am going to share and discuss to you the effects of isolation to diversity.
So first is, what is geographic isolation? According to Encyclopedia, the separation of population of some species breeding group by physical barriers, such as mountains or body of water. This may lead to populations becoming separate species by adaptive radiation. Meaning, when a continuous population ay nahati into two or more smaller population dahil sa pagbabago ng anyo ng kapaligiran. For example, yung isang lugar ay nagdrift or nahati dahil sa natural calamities like volcanic eruption. So let's say yung isang side ng area ay napadpad sa ibang region o lugar. So yung mga species na andun sa lugar na yun ay mag-change sila dahil sa iba yung abiotic factor ay ma-adapt nila yung changes sa climate and other factors na andun sa area na yun. Another example is the northern spotted owl, Strix occidentalis corina, and Mexican spotted owl, Strix occidentalis lucida. The two subspecies of spotted owls found along the west coast of the United States have evolved separately as they inhabit different geographical locations.
Because of the geographical drift happened ay pumasok na yung isolation which result to higher diversity.
So the next is species turnover. According to Biology Forums of 2011, species turnover is the number of species on islands resulting from one species becoming extinct and others immigrating. Meaning, sa species turnover, nalalaman kung ilan na ang natitira na species sa isang island after may nag-immigrate and migrate na other species. An example are the birds na nagtatransfer para maghanap ng food for their survival because of the climate change. Climate change may cause habitat loss, enhance species invasion and disease spreads, and result in further population declines or species extinctions. The third is rescue effect. According to Waite 1985, rescue effect is an increase of immigration rates of species in an area due to its closer location to the mainland. Therefore, species extinction rate are lower on these areas than on areas that are more isolated and more remote from the mainland. So, ang rescue effect ay parang coping mechanism sa species turnover, meaning islands closer to the mainland have populations are less likely to go extinct because they can be rescued by immigrants from the mainland.
However, there are theories that contradicts the theories I've mentioned earlier, and that theories is to be discussed by Miss Victoram.
We've already talked about geographic isolation, which species turnover and rescue effect fall. And now, we will be hopping in our next topic, which also relates to our main issue about isolation, and that is island biogeography theory. MacArthur and Wilson first published the book of this theory by studying the Pacific birds. On that study, the authors found out that large islands have more than 100 bird species present compared to the islands with small dimensions. But first, let's tackle about islands. An island is any habitat that differs significantly to its surrounding ecosystems. An alpine zone is an island. Oasis in the desert is an island. And even a pond is an island. These are just few examples of islands with varying forms. Now the question is, how's island biogeography theory connects with the species diversity of an ecosystem? The rate of diversity can be traced by several determinants, and in this theory, immigration and extinction will be the focus. In immigration, it pertains to species that migrate to an island or a specific area, while extinction, on the other hand, relates to the decreasing rate of species because of competition. And to clearly understand this concept, a graph can be a modifier. Illustrated here is the graph. This graph will present the rate of species diversity of an ecosystem. The blue line depicts the number of species that migrate to an island, and the red line shows the rate of species extinction. You can also see the point where these two lines meet. That is the equilibrium. Equilibrium then represents the species richness of an area. Island size and island location have significant effects on the change of immigration and extinction rate of species, so does the richness of species. Let's have first the island size. Islands with small dimensions tend to have low rate of immigration because it can cater greater number of species because of its small area, and so species are less likely to land. In addition, small islands also have high extinction rates for the reason that those species who left the area have a high tendency of not returning back again in that place. Oppositely, large islands have higher rate of immigration because of course of its wider scope, and the extinction rate of this island is low because those species who left have a high tendency of coming back in that area. Conclusively, large islands have greater rate of species diversity as compared with the smaller ones. The second factor that affects the richness of species diversity is location. The distance between one island to another similar ecosystem also determines the diversity rate. The closer distance of an island to the similar ecosystem mainland tend to have higher rate of immigration because of the shorter distance, which makes it favorable for the species to migrate. On the other side of the coin, islands far from the mainland have low rate of immigration because of its far distance, which makes it less advantageous to the species. Due to that instance, farther islands also have high rate of extinction. To sum up everything that has been discussed under the effects of isolation to species diversity, Alteration of time partnered with natural changes and calamities greatly affect the richness of species diversity. Thus, those aforementioned factors must be known and considered by conservators. This is Glory and Madayag Victorama, and I hope you've learned something. Bye!
Hi, this is Nyarnimi Mbukar, and at this time, I will give you a brief summary of what has been discussed by my group mates on the factors affecting species diversity. So the first factor is the latitude. In the study adopted by Rosenwade 1995, ang species diversity ay tumataas pag ang latitude ay bumababa. Meaning there is high biodiversity of species in the tropics than in the temperate regions. Dahil daw ito sa different amount of light na nare-receive ng ating mga species from the different regions. So, as latitude decreases, species diversity increases. The second factor that we have is the elevation. As the elevation increases, bumababa ang ating species diversity. Dahil ito sa lumiliit na space na kayang i-provide ng area habang tumataas ang elevation. Another reason is the temperature. As elevation increases, lumalamig yung temperatura kung saan konti lang yung species na nakakasurvive. So with increasing elevation accompanied by decreasing temperature, species diversity decreases. The third factor is the soil fertility. If the soil is rich in nutrients, then there will be a high diversity of species. Kung ang plant communities natin ay nakaka-adapt to certain soil conditions, then those species na nasa richer soils will have higher diversity compared to species on poorer soils. So rich soils equals to high diversity of species, and poorer soils equals to low diversity of species. The fourth factor is stress. Increasing stress in an ecosystem will result to a decrease of species diversity. Ang mga causes kung bakit nag-i-increase ang stress ng isang ecosystem ay dahil sa biotic and abiotic factors, human activities, and climate change. So species diversity decreases when there is increasing stress in an ecosystem. And then we have the fifth and the last factor, which is the isolation. Nangyayari ang isolation ng mga species dahil sa iba't ibang factors tulad ng species turnover, a rescue effect, and the island biogeography theory. And this will make the species diversity increase or decrease depending on the situation na kinakaharap ng ating ecosystem. So isolation will make the species diversity of an ecosystem increase or decrease depending on the situation na kanilang hinaharap. So why is it important to know and understand the different factors that affects the species diversity in an ecosystem? According to neat articles from Biogeo's website, in a healthy ecosystem, kailangan diverse at balanse ang number of species na nag-i-exist para ma-maintain ang balanse ng isang ecosystem. That is because all species depend directly or indirectly on it. So to make a productive and sustainable ecosystem, importanteng ma-maintain ang high species diversity. So knowing and understanding the factors that affect species diversity will help us know how to protect, conserve, and manage sustainably these ecosystems. As we humans also benefit from them, it is only right to know the proper way of managing these ecosystems like our tropical forests sustainably. Thank you for watching this video. I hope marami kayong natutunan from the topics that were discussed by our group. See you next time. Have a good day. Bye!